Hi, my name is Jessie Adams. I'm a hairstylist in Costa Mesa, California. I've been doing hair for 10 years. Come with me to the salon as I take my client from a grown-out, dull blonde to a super bright, buttery blonde with a seamless root smudge using a traditional partial highlight technique, tip outs, a root smudge, and no toner. Our goal for this appointment was just to brighten her up overall. So come along with me. I hope you learned something today. Also, feel free to like and subscribe to my channel for more salon education content. Please comment any questions that you have for me below. I would love to answer any questions and help you out. This is my client's color before, and you can see she has a lot of natural depth up at her root area that we wanted to target, as well as dull ends. I'm using L'Oreal Professional 8-level lift with bonder inside. I'm doing 20 volume for the majority of the highlights, as well as a 10 volume for her face frame highlights. So I'm going in with a partial highlight technique. And because I really want this to be a high impact color technique, I'm taking micro slices throughout the entire head. I'm using a traditional partial highlight placement just because I feel like that, if done correctly, grows out so beautifully. And you can see that I'm sectioning out any previous blonde from the foil so that it doesn't get compromised. You can see at the top of my foil, I'm going in with a very feathered approach. This makes it grow out so seamlessly. And then with the root smudge on top of this, it's gonna be so blurred. There's gonna be absolutely no line, and your client is gonna love how low maintenance it is. As I finish about 5 to 6 foils, I'm gonna go in with a tip out, and I'm just taking a big textured weave, and I'm back combing, and I'm also over directing. All of these are steps to prevent your tip out from having a harsh line. It is so important to be so thorough with your tip outs as far as like saturation and making sure that it lifts enough, because a tip out, if there's like any spots or anything in it, or if it doesn't lift all the way, that's gonna be super hard to address once all of your clients' foils are rinsed out. Be extremely mindful of your saturation and use your higher developer lightener so you don't have a brassy tip out that's between beautifully lifted foils. Once I'm done applying the back, I'm going to go into the sides, and again, I'm just approaching this with a very traditional partial highlight placement. So I'm taking diagonal backs all the way up from the side to the crown of the head, and you can see just to fill out that space, I'm using a micro slice, and you just want to make sure you have it extremely saturated again and super feathered into the root. And then again, I am leaving out the pre-existing blonde that's on the ends so that I don't cause any breakage. You can see how tight I'm packing in these foils, and this is because I want to create the maximum amount of impact in that root area. If I were to leave more space between foils or do a baby light instead of a micro slice, there would still be a lot of natural depth throughout the root, which is great in some cases, but that is not the goal for this client. This is what it looked like when I was done with all of my clients' foils. This is her sitting under the heater. Honestly, such a vibe. Once she was all done processing, it was time for her root smudge, and she wanted to stay pretty bright at the root, but we just wanted to soften that line just the tiniest bit. So I went ahead and mixed up an 8N equal parts with 9N in Redken Shades EQ, and I'm doing a baby tap, which is just the tiniest little smudge. I want to keep it super bright, but I do want that line to be a little bit blurred. My client wanted to keep her blonde as bright as possible, and since we did a ton of tip outs and they lifted beautifully, we didn't end up having to do an all over gloss. So once her root smudge was done processing for about 10 minutes, we went ahead and rinsed her, and then it was time to style. And here is what she looked like when we were all done with her. We were so obsessed with how blonde this was, and luckily because she lifted so beautifully, we didn't have to tone her. So this is just her raw lift. It is so pretty, and it's so crazy because she was blonde when she came in, but those tip outs made such a huge difference in the overall appearance of her blonde. If you're looking for that bright, buttery tone, doing no toner is the way to go. Finished styling her by curling her with my 1 1/4 inch Babyliss curling iron, and she was all done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something today. Feel free to like and subscribe for more salon education content. And please comment any questions that you have for me below. I would love to answer any questions that you have for me. Thank you so much.